Every day I ask myself, can it get worse for the Miami Dolphins? And it feels like almost every single day, the answer is yes. The news coming out of NFL Week 5 following this blown loss and 27-24 embarrassment to the Carolina Panthers, the news is somehow worse. There's some injury news. There is an update on a couple players trying to return from IR. That is not positive. It's just absolutely brutal. Who has it worse than us? Nobody. But make sure you follow me on Twitter, though, because I am continuing to have updates on the Dolphins over there. At Nic_Rohloff is my handle. And when the news breaks that Mike McDaniel is inevitably fired, not when, or not if, but when, I will have it there first. So go give me a follow right now. The news that headlines this show, though, revolves on the offensive line. When Mike McDaniel spoke to media earlier today, he was asked if James Daniels and Austin Jackson, who are eligible to return this week against the Chargers, will be activated off of IR. Well, they were lumped in with Liam Eichenberg and Andrew Meyer as several weeks for that collective group. Not even just a simple no. Several weeks, which means James Daniels not only is probably not returning this week against the Chargers, but probably won't be returning in Week 7 against the Cleveland Browns. Same thing can be said about Austin Jackson, which, by the way, not only do the Chargers have one of the best defensive fronts in football, but the Cleveland Browns defensive line has been absolutely dominant. They've been one of the best run defense in the NFL. They obviously have Myles Garrett. I just continue to look at our schedule, and after feeling a little bit positive about it, I have no faith in a win coming anytime soon with how poor this offensive line is playing and how poor this defensive line is playing. And you are not getting the reinforcements you may have gotten or may have thought you were going to get based off what Mike McDaniel just said. You look at what the Dolphins did on Sunday against Carolina running the football. It was non-existent. They had 19 rushing yards. That should come as no surprise in the fact that it was last amongst teams in NFL Week 5 entering Monday Night Football. And I'll say entering Monday Night Week Football, there's no world where the Chiefs or Jaguars have worse rushing numbers than the Dolphins. So last, third worst, that's going to play here. 1.4 yards per carry. How is that possible? Seriously, how is that possible? 1.4 yards per carry. I should have looked this up before I filmed this and went live. What is the worst yards per carry in an NFL game in history? I feel like 1.4 got to be pretty damn close. Somehow, though, they didn't have the worst EPA per rush. They were third worst in that regard. But they did have the biggest stuff rate. 42.9% of their runs were stuffed at or behind the line of scrimmage. That was worse than the NFL entering Monday Night Football in Week 5 by about 17%. The next worst team was about at 25. It was embarrassing. And it has to do with the fact that Miami has backups at right guard and right tackle. Cole Strange got his second straight start for the Dolphins at right guard. Larry Borom has started at right tackle for weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5. Borom has been one of the, if not the worst right tackles in all of football. Cole Strange had a relatively fine day against the New York Jets on Monday Night Football, but was absolutely abused against Derek Brown and A'Shawn Robinson and the Carolina Panthers. An 18.1 pass blocking grade. He allowed 5 pressures in the last 2 weeks. That is so bad, man. And you see Larry Borom's numbers, they're not even any better. Cole Strange was consistently getting beat very quickly against Derek Brown and A'Shawn Robinson. I get it. Derek Brown's a top 5 defensive lineman on the interior in all of football. He has a massive contract in Carolina. You know what? And this is a quick sidebar. It'd be nice to have our big paid defensive lineman be as impactful as Derek Brown has been. He got his contract. He's earning it in Carolina. Zach Sealer got his, and he has been a no-show for most of this season so far. But the offensive line has been brutal. Jonah Savaiinaea, we'll get to him in just a second, has been the worst offensive guard, and I'll say the worst offensive lineman in all of football this year. You drafted Jonah in round 2. You signed James Daniels in free agency to upgrade this front five. Jackson, Daniels, Brewer, Savaiinaea, and Paul. You hope that these five would be really, really solid for you. Well, two of them haven't played basically all season, and the second-round pick has been the worst player in football. I was hoping to get James Daniels back for this week because he's been out for 4 weeks with a pec injury. There was buzz about maybe he could return closer to that 4-week mark. Evidently, that's not the case. But let's talk about Jonah Savaiinaea now, because he is somehow, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, he is making me miss Liam Eichenberg. We all wanted Liam Eichenberg ejected to the sun last season in the offseason. But the truth is, he is infinitely better than what Jonah Savaiinaea has done, what Cole Strange has done, what Keon Smith has done, what Daniel Brunskill has done. I can't believe I'm saying and praising Liam Eichenberg so much because I was his number one hater. But when you have a left guard graded out as the worst guard in football, 86th run blocker, 98th pass blocker, I don't know how there's 4 or 5 people with a worse pass blocking grade at the guard position than Jonah Savaiinaea. This guy was advertised to be a plug-and-play offensive lineman due to his versatility at Arizona, playing 700 snaps at right tackle, 1,000 at right guard, and 400 at left tackle throughout his collegiate career. His ability to block in zone run blocking schemes was advertised at Arizona. Yet he has been nothing short of a joke this season. It is bad. And you have to ask the question, should the Dolphins bench him? Like, I get it. He's only played 5 games in his career. You traded up to get him in the second round of this year's draft. But you are getting the worst offensive line play in the NFL out of him right now. Should the Dolphins bench him? You make the call. Y for yes or N for no. Like, you do have to seriously think about this. Because at what point are you doing a disservice to him in his career? There is a chance, maybe, he rebounds from this. But I think it is more likely than not, you ultimately get the best return on Jonah if you bench him, let him clear his head, let him sit, let him rest, let him learn, watch tape, work on his technique, his mechanics, his footwork, his hand placement, all of the above. That might be the best way forward for Jonah Savaiinaea. But the problem is as well, is there anyone better to replace Jonah? Because we are having to shuffle between Keon Smith, Daniel Brunskill, and Cole Strange at right guard. So one of those 3 would have to play left guard. And then so 2 of those guys would be playing when James Daniels is still out of the lineup. And that's just as bad, if not worse. So you have to wonder long-term if the Dolphins should bench Jonah to try to get him right. But you also are going to be putting out someone that is equally as bad or just as worse. All right, moving forward to some other injury news. Tyrel Dodson is in concussion protocol. He left the game halfway through on Sunday against the Panthers. And Cornell Armstrong will miss time with a hamstring injury. That is now multiple corners with a hamstring injury right now. Jason Marshall Jr., the rookie out of Florida, obviously on IR right now with a hamstring injury. Armstrong was looking like the starting nickel corner for Miami in Week 5. He played in 23 snaps before he ultimately suffered that hamstring injury and did not return. So the question is, who is going to replace him at that starting nickel spot with Jason Marshall Jr. still on IR? We'll have that answer potentially coming up in just a second. But this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on Prize Picks can get you paid. So simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stat projections. If you get your pick right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Devon Achane receptions, rushing yards, touchdowns? Well, you can do that all in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. Prize Picks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. I'm already looking forward to week 6. I'll go less than Justin Fields passing yards. He's horrific. I'll go less than Dillon Gabriel passing yards. Actually didn't look that bad, but playing a Steelers defense coming off a bye, Mike Tomlin's been money against rookie quarterbacks. I'll also go more than Deebo Samuel. He's been like elite this year for the Commanders. Who saw that coming? But join me on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Well, one player that could be returning to the Dolphins lineup, and we'll get more information as the week progresses, is Storm Duck, the second-year UDFA corner who is projected to be the starting CB1 for the Dolphins this season. And he did start as the CB1 against the Colts with Jack Jones as the CB2. Duck got hurt. Rasul Douglas goes into the lineup, but Duck has been out for 4 weeks now. He missed weeks 2, week 3, week 4, and week 5. He was not placed on IR. I thought the Dolphins should have probably put him on IR if they thought he was going to miss 4 games. If he misses this week, that would be 5 games, and it's really like, why didn't you put him on IR? So the signs would tell you it's likely he at least plays this week in week 5, and they were hoping to get him back in week 4, but it ultimately just didn't work out the way they wanted to. The issue is, though, you don't really have a lot of slot corners on this roster right now. You have 5 active corners on the 53-man roster. Rasul Douglas, in his career, the most tenured guy, played 333 snaps, but he's mostly a boundary corner. Jack Jones, in his 3-4-year career, has played 106 snaps on the inside, but once again, mostly a boundary guy. Storm Duck has only done it 7 snaps. Juju Brents has only done it 4 snaps. And Ethan Bonner has never done it in an NFL game. So if you're asking me on how the Dolphins address that nickel spot in a nickel defense, it's likely going to be a 3-safety look, whether it's Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has played nickel in the past for the Steelers and the Dolphins, whether it's Ifeatu Melifonwu, Ashton Davis, Dante Trader Jr. The secondary for Miami has not been good whatsoever, but you have to imagine that Miami is going to try to replace that nickel production with one of the 4 safeties they consistently rotate on the back end of this defense because simply there isn't any other better option out there. I could see Miami maybe bringing Storm Duck back on the boundary with Rasul Douglas and moving Jack Jones to the nickel, but I do think it's more likely they will go with one of those safeties and just rotate them all over the back end of that defense over moving a corner there long term. Make sure you are subscribed. Yeah, the season is off to a dumpster fire of a start, but we aren't going anywhere. 2 videos every day, live on game days, live day after games, and Thursdays. Subscribe for the best coverage of the Miami Dolphins on YouTube. Now let's go over to the Tyrel Dodson injury because he is the starting linebacker for the Dolphins, and the next man up might not be the man you would originally think. Most of us would want to see Willie Gay Jr. as the replacement for Tyrel Dodson because of how well he performed in the preseason and in training camp. Well, I actually believe it will be KJ Britt as the starting linebacker next to Jordyn Brooks for this Week 6 game against the Chargers if Tyrel Dodson doesn't clear concussion protocol. And that was the case on Sunday against the Panthers. Brooks led the way at the linebacker spot, playing 69 snaps, one short of max. They were on the field for 70 snaps. Tyrel Dodson played 49, but in the snaps that they needed to replace Dodson with, it was KJ Britt getting 22 snaps. Now, Willie Gay Jr., ironically enough, actually started this game. He was the linebacker on the first play of the game, defensively. He played 3 snaps. Why start him if he's only going to play 3 snaps, man? I think it's going to be a mistake, though, because I know they're going to play KJ Britt. They have said that Britt is the perfect replacement for Dodson next to Brooks, and they say Willie Gay Jr. is the perfect replacement for Jordyn Brooks if he were to go down. But simply put, play your best linebacker. Like, am I saying Willie Gay Jr. is the best linebacker on the roster? No, it's still Jordyn Brooks. But do I think Willie Gay is better than Britt? Yes, I do. He's more athletic. He's more rangy. Is Britt more of a downhill thumper stopper in the run game? And maybe the Dolphins could use that? Sure. But Willie Gay is also that perfect hybrid that can rush the passer, can cover, and can stop some plays in the run game. So I think it's a mistake if they go with KJ Britt over Willie Gay Jr., but that is just me. Who is the Dodson replacement for you? Now, maybe he clears concussion protocol and he's starting this week, but let's just be pessimistic and say he's out. Who do you think should replace him in the starting lineup? Willie Gay, type WG. If you think it's KJ, type KJ Britt. Not to be super negative, but let's be honest. Does it matter? No. I'm broken, man. Like, this team is beyond cooked. This defense is beyond cooked. We're 1-4. Somehow, we're not last in the division because the Jets are somehow even worse than you. Fire everyone. Whoop! Clean sweep. Greer, McDaniel, Weaver. Now, are you actually going to fire everyone? No, because you need coaches to fill out the staff for the rest of the season. The point remains. The season is going nowhere. So move off of Greer, move off of McDaniel, promote from within, see what they can do at the head coaching spot, and then you're going to have a full overhaul at the roster this offseason. Like, if you had to have 53 players on this roster that made roster cutdown day, I would bet maybe 14 of them are back next season. That's how much change you will have. I'm a little pessimistic. I'm sorry, folks. That'll do it for today's show. You want more on the Dolphins? My true thoughts, my true takes are over on Twitter as well as YouTube. So give me a follow at Nic_Rohloff.